Infirmary Media.
Now tuned in to the Selling Out Podcast.
What it does is reaches into your brain chemically and locates your happiest memory chemically, and then locks onto that emotion and freezes it chemically, and then it keeps you happy.
Hello, and welcome to the Selling Out Show. We have a great one planned for you today. I am one of your hosts, David Schultz, and by my side, my partner in crime, Nate Gorzinski. Nate, how the heck are you?
Hey, Dave. It's actually been kind of a rough day. I don't want to begin it with a downer, but we had a death in the family. One of our 4 horses actually had a bad break on a leg, and as the cliche goes, when the horse's leg breaks, you got to put her down. So it was a rough day, but we're gonna keep Lexi the horse in our thoughts, and just also keep Carly, my girlfriend, in my thoughts, because she's having a rough day. It was one of her babies. So, but we're gonna go forward. You know, we think positive thoughts about her, but we're gonna have a good show.
We are gonna have a good show. I'm sorry to hear about your horse.
Yeah.
You once were the keeper of the 4 horsemen of apocalypse there.
Right.
You said you had 4 of them, but
Yeah.
now you're down to 3. That's too bad. I just added a pet into my home. Yes, and mine is not a sad story, but one of frustration. So I'm not trying to take away from your grief.
Not at all, man.
But I'm very angry. You know I don't like pets to begin with.
Right.
They frustrate me. Just fucking make me mad.
Right.
And my son got a hamster.
Oh, no.
And you look at well, it's funny you say, oh, no, because you look at a hamster and you go, oh, that little cute little fat fuck.
Yeah.
Look at him eating his food. Look at him in his wheel. What a happy little guy. I recommend to any parent out there, please do your research before you buy a pet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know the fucking thing is nocturnal. So it's
no.
up all night long, spinning its little hamster wheel, which is noisy.
Squeak, squeak, squeak in the middle of the night.
So my kid's
wheel.
not... Yes, the squeaky wheel. My son is not sleeping very well thanks to the hamster, but he says it doesn't bother him, but yet I'm like, why are you up at 1 a.m.?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. No reason. Yeah, it's the fucking little fur ball there.
Right.
The other thing about it is it's a little poop factory.
Of course.
I don't know what the classification of animals are, like the hamsters, the guinea pigs, the bunnies, whatever you call them. I just call them little furry, fat fucking things. But they shit like nobody's business, like I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah? Wow.
So therefore, I am the one to clean the cage.
Yeah, man. Well,
Me.
yeah. You're the dude.
I'm the dookie dude.
Yeah.
That's me. So it's just a fucking nightmare on epic proportions. So when he looks at it, its name is Oreo, by the way.
Mm.
See? Yeah, another cute name. Until fucking you're going to clean up after the fucking thing. But anyway, I'm stuck with all the responsibilities of this fuck. And I want to check it out a goddamn window.
Yeah, dude. Don't I know it? Yeah.
Fits perfectly in my palm, too. I could fucking chuck a knuckleball with that son of a bitch. I'm not really going to do that. Don't be calling any of the fucking pet authorities on me, people.
Right. Don't call PETA.
PETA.
Yeah.
To me, I associate with bread, but other people associate with animal rights. But yes, exactly. Just don't do that to me. I will be kind to the little fucking furball. Nate, we had a mutual friend who passed away far too soon. As a matter of fact, we dedicated our first episode to him.
Right.
He had a big impact on our lives. Again, a true blue great friend. And I had a dream about him the other night, and it wasn't really an extravagant dream or anything. We weren't doing anything too fancy.
Okay.
The gist was we were just basically smoking butts,
Yeah.
and shooting the breeze. So, anyway, I mean, it happens from time to time. You remember people that you cared about.
Right, of course.
But here's where it gets a little trippy.
Yeah.
Is I have something, mail notification from USPS,
Right.
or whatever the fuck they're called. USPS?
Yeah,
Is
the
that
Postal
right?
Service, the U.S. Postal Service. That's USPS.
I can't speak this episode. Please forgive me in advance. But anyway, yes. And I get a scan of all my mail before it comes to my mailbox. and there was a flyer in there, and whose name was on it? Not mine, but the name of the friend Andrew Jones, who passed away. So I was really kind of fucking, like, I just got punched.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa, this is really just quite fucking coincidental.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a big believer in signs.
Right.
Really, the afterlife even. I'm not even sure really how to feel about that.
Sure.
I don't really believe that spirits come to visit you to talk to you or anything.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
But what really bothered me, I think the most, is that when you lose somebody so young, we've had the luxury of growing older, and in my case, yours as well, mellowing out.
Right.
Kind of like easing into adulthood, especially with the lives that we led, the crazy lives, and we've gained new perspectives on everything in this world, and understand ourselves better. And I really wish I could have a conversation with Andy now.
Oh my goodness, I know it, man. I know.
Like that was something that I was like, that really fucking bums me out.
Yeah.
Because I really would like to know where he would be now.
I know.
What kind of person would he have become?
I think about that all the time. There are so many times. He's one of those friends where there are so many things that I'll experience in my life, and I'll be like, damn, I almost think I can't wait to tell Andy. Still, all these years later, it's been like a decade plus since he's been gone. But he was such a big part of our lives that, we'll see things and say, man, I can't wait to tell Andy. And then it hits me. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. And that sucks. But,
right. Yeah.
Or I'll think, what would he have thought about such and such, or the political climate right now, certain things, certain inventions, it's always weird to think of stuff like that, what they missed out on, all this shit. Andy was barely around for like smartphones and shit, a lot has changed. But anyway, yeah, that's a strange experience, man. You had the dream, and then you had the weird postal service sort of mishap that just was with his name. Like, that's...
Well, the thing was, it was his name, but my address.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck, man? Because we were all roommates, too. We all lived together at certain points,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's just really just way too, again, to repeat, coincidental.
Yeah,
Just strange. And, again, just the day after I had that fucking dream.
Yeah.
Where I woke up really emotional, just being like, man, I miss that motherfucker. Oh, wait, I got an email. What the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
This is just, I don't know. And how about you? Do you believe in, like, signs or anything? Is that something that would, like, alert you that maybe someone's trying to communicate with you or something like that?
Well, I never have, and I am really sensitive meaning I get angry kind of quickly about the whole medium thing, like the industry of saying that they're speaking to your dead loved ones and this and that. Like, that shit really pisses me off. But as skeptical as I am with all these things, I had one sort of period in my life where I experienced not one, but like two things that really kind of made me question. I could not explain them. And so my roommate, I've mentioned on another episode, I believe, I found him dead. It was a sad situation, but his family, I was still staying there with his wife's mother, and their 3 kids, which were 8, 7, and like an infant, like 1. And so anyway, he had recently died. This is very recent, and the apartment was like a basement apartment, and there was an area where you could walk in, and that's where all the boiler or the whatever, the furnace, all that shit, like, and some storage, like the actual basement, because we're on the basement level, but we did have access to like the buildings, the apartment buildings basement right there,
Right, I follow you.
Yeah,
sure.
So there were it was just a bunch of shit. Like, there were toys, like all the kids' stuff that they didn't play with anymore. I'm talking like there was a whole room that was just like a pile of toys. And one day I hear this little singing. It was like a little Spanish, it sounded like a toy singing. And the mother-in-law that was living with us was like, oh my God. And she's starting to freak out. And I don't know why. So we're going in the storage area because that's where it's coming from, and I'm picking up toys. Like I can hear it coming from this pile of toys, so I'm moving toys around, and I finally find it's like this little doll, but it's one of these dolls where you have to hold each of its hands like you're playing Ring Around the Rosie or something, and the connection, there's like a little metal spot on each hand, and when you make the connection by holding its hands with your body, it completes the circuit and the thing sings.
Okay. Right, I got you.
It starts singing. But it wasn't touching anything. Like and you could say, well, was it touching like another toy that was whatever?
Yeah.
But the way I remember it, right? But well, that's what I was wondering. Maybe when the battery gets low, it starts singing. Certain things do shit like it. So it most likely has a rational explanation, but it was freaky at the time because the guy had recently died, and this toy. I guess the story was the father who had passed away had gone out of his way to find a doll that sang this song in Spanish, or sang in Spanish at all. Back then, I suppose now you'd probably find more Spanish-speaking toys, but this was years ago, and you didn't see it as much.
Yeah, it's more rare.
Yeah,
I follow you.
Yeah, and he found this doll. Like, he went hunting for a doll that sang in Spanish, and that's what he found it, and it was special. So that's why it was kind of like this weird thing. Like, the daughter was home. She was, crying and all this shit, but it was very, very weird at the time. And like I said, it probably has a rational explanation, but it felt weird. And the other one, just quickly, was the same apartment, same situation. He had recently died, and there was one of these birthday candle that, I don't know, when you light it or whatever, it starts like playing a little song. I don't know if you have to hit a switch on the thing. It's got a little electronic thingamabob but it's a candle. You light it on and you blow it out, but it's
okay.
But it's got
a novelty thing, right?
Yes,
I've never seen one. That's new to me.
It just makes a little, sounds like a music box sort of sound coming out of it, and they had it on like the frame of the door, like above the doorway, just kind of propped up there. It just started playing, and no one had touched it, no one had lit it, but it was from his birthday cake the year before or whatever. So there were it was two weird situations. And then in that apartment, we found out later that the same room where he had committed suicide, there was another, I don't know if it was the tenant right before us or the one before that, had passed away in that same room, but from some kind of heart attack or something. But yeah, there was some death in that apartment. It was strange.
Do you feel like it was like maybe haunted? Like at the time, I know. Yeah. Did you really think it was a sign?
I think, yeah. First of all, back then I was a little more open-minded with things. The world hadn't crushed my sense of wonder and magic yet.
Okay, right.
But now I don't really believe in any of that shit. I just there's never been any concrete evidence, anything recorded, anything scientifically proven, nothing that couldn't be explained ever throughout history, throughout scientific history. So I'm starting to think maybe there's nothing to get worked up about. But I don't know. The argument is that you can't measure things like that. Maybe there's no scientific way to quantify that. But whatever it is, I felt freaked out in that apartment. And
I would have gotten the fuck out of there. I'm like, this is enough. The singing doll is one thing.
Yeah.
Well, then the candle starts singing. Yeah. Oh, jeez. See you later. Fucking, whoa, I'm out.
Yeah, man. It was a little strange, but whatever. Nowadays, I'm just like, well, there was some malfunctioning fucking birthday presents or whatever in that apartment. I don't know.
We'll never know. It could have been the same thing with my dream. I mean, I really don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to implore anybody who's listening, if you have any input on getting contacted by someone from the great beyond, if you've ever had one of these spooky experiences, or if you just want to shoot the breeze with us, be sure to reach out and contact us. It's easy to do so. You can find us on Twitter at Selling Out Show, on Facebook at Selling Out Show 1. You can leave us a voicemail at 774-701-1993. No singing candles will answer. Or you can drop us an email at sellingoutshow@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. This summer, you want to beat the heat, not your budget. Plus, with all the activities outside and people having fun, they don't want to be around a filthy smoker. This season is perfect for quitting cigarettes, and the best way to do that is by visiting the fine folks down at Northland Vapor Company. They make it easy to shop for e-liquids, supplies, and more. With 3 retail locations in South Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, and Bemidji, Minnesota. Or if you're still working on that beach bod, visit their website at northlandvapor.com. All of their products are dictone and artificial sweetener free. So whether you're a new or an experienced vapor, rest easy as you sit poolside, knowing that you're not pumping yourself full of poison. So what are you waiting for? Fill that cabana full of clouds and shop at Northland Vapor Company today. Some products contain nicotine, adults only. Nate, are you ready to party?
I'm always ready to party, man.
All right, great, because I'm not. I've got no vigor. I've got no vim. I've got nothing, man. I can't do it anymore. But back in the day, we were fucking animals. Absolute fucking beasts. We've got stories up the Yahoo about the parties we attended, the things that we did. I mean, you brought up to me previously there was one that we had called the week-long party.
Right.
And if a party, for one, gets its own title, and in that title it says it lasts for an entire 7 days, you know it had to be something else.
Yeah.
But before I start talking about any of our exploits, I do want to mention it's funny that, then parties were, they built up your cred amongst your friends. They were stuff of legend. You just wanted to talk about them all the time. And I know we're only talking like a couple years later.
Yeah.
You're 17 or something, when you're 19, you're still like, oh, can you believe that fucking Ranger we had?
Yeah, man.
But still, it was pretty wild that that's what we used to do. And now, you just go, what kind of fucking dummy, what kind of fucking moron was I,
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun at the time, but when you get older, you're like, damn, man. It's like, it caused a lot of damage. It was super, like, I don't know, dangerous. And once you explain the premise of the week-long party, and then you kind of see more of the consequences and the issues why it was so stupid. But I don't know. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks a bunch. We had a friend. I had a really good friend growing up. I'm just going to say his first name to protect the not innocent. Basically to protect the guilty is what I should have said the first time around. But again, I am still an idiot who got to house sit for one of his teachers. He was a teacher's pet. Right. The teacher absolutely loved him, even though he was kind of a fucking fuck-up. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know what kind of face he put on with this woman or whatever. But anyway,
he was the said, Eddie Haskell of
there you go.
The school.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And she's like, okay, can you house sit for me? I'm going away for a week. And he, of course, agreed. So the whole time, he absolutely knew that he was going to throw a party at her house.
Yeah. And
I was there with him the first night. She left. And she left a note. Man. And with that note was clues for money. And the money was to buy the dog, because she left her dog as well. Dog food, if there's any emergencies or anything like that. If he needed to eat, he wanted to order some food or something. So she hid money in like potted plants or stuff. And we ran around the house giddy. Like,
it's like a
money for
hunt.
Weed. Yes, exactly. We're like, weird. Money for beer, money for drugs, money for whatever, not for dog food. So we immediately that night started drinking. And he started calling some folks, and before you knew it, people started showing up. And knowing that the owner of the house wasn't going to be home for a week, people just decided not to leave.
Right, yeah.
And
why would
the
you?
Party, yeah, right? And the party raged on all night, all day for whatever cycle you were in.
Right.
If you felt like drinking during the day, drink during the day and pass out at night. Just don't pass out in a public place or you will be sharpied and written on and everything else. But still, certain rules applied. There was a lot of drugging, boozing, fucking going on in that house all around the board. Yeah. And then the people who were closest to Mike, like me, got their own rooms.
Yep. Yeah.
We were assigned our own areas and everything.
VIP treatment.
VIP. And I got the kids' room, which had a Super Nintendo in it, I believe, which was like fucking the shit, Yeah. Because that's how we would do this sobriety test if you could drive. We had this airplane game I forgot the name of it now. I'm gonna have
wings.
Something like that. And if you could land the plane on the battleship, you were good enough to drive. That was seriously. This was our mandate.
Hey, it's something, I guess.
And I got wicked hammered. I took the Teddy Ruxpin, a full size Teddy Ruxpin, not like one of the new ones. That's like one of those smaller ones. This is the old school big ass one that took a cassette in it. And I fucking thought it was insulting me or something. That's how wasted I was. And I trashed it in front of everybody. I had this fucking all-out brawl with an inanimate object.
Destroyed the Teddy Ruxpin.
Destroyed it. Like, I mean, I fucking pounded it. I even duct taped it to a ceiling fan so the remnants of the thing were spinning so people could witness the results of my mayhem.
Right,
but hey, again, this was something that people talked about forever after that.
Right.
They're like, oh, man, because, I used to go by LD. I still do amongst our friends.
Right.
And did you see what LD did to the fucking Teddy Ruxpin? That was fucking savage, man. And I loved it. I was always walking around in a bathrobe.
Right.
I thought I was fucking Hugh Hefner and stuff.
Yeah.
There were fights. I mean,
of course.
We had town-to-town rivalries, fight in the driveway.
The Sochas and the Greasers.
Yes.
The Sharks and the Jets.
There you go. But kids from one town didn't like the kids from another town.
Oh, that's always the way
There's
it was.
a brawl in the parking lot. Police are being called. I mean, on and on. And of course, there was other people doing crazy shit, but I don't. Maybe I'll have them on the show someday and they can speak for themselves.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how much dirty laundry I want to air for everybody else.
Yeah.
There was one woman. I will tell this. Again, names will not apply here.
Uh-huh.
We had a friend who was a virgin.
Okay.
And he was 16 some odd years old.
Right.
And the rest of us thought that was fucking lame.
Yes.
So there was a girl at the party
who
was a little frisky
okay.
with some of the guys. And so she was in a room and she was ready for whatever.
Yeah.
So I know I'm doing a terrible job describing it. I apologize. But we're like, dude, get in there. She's ready to fucking go. Tonight is the night you lose it, man. You lose that virginity. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm all set with all that.
What is this, American Pie or something?
Yeah, right, basically. And we're like, no, get in there. And he's like, no, that's not how I want to lose my shit. I'm not interested in that whatsoever. Yeah. We physically picked him up, dragged him. He is clawing at door jambs, refuses to go. Boom, slam the door. And we're like, don't come out for 15 more minutes. Yeah. And we're holding the door. He's shaking it. We leave the door in man for like a couple minutes. Next thing you know, he runs out.
Damn,
like his fucking ass is on fire. which, interestingly enough, it turns out we knew another guy who did take advantage of the situation.
It's like, well, if you're not going to get the job done, I'll take it.
And he did. Yeah. And a certain part of his, anatomy did catch on fire.
What? In
a manner of speaking, by catching an STD.
Oh, no.
So, the most important thing that guy did, our virgin friend.
Yeah.
Was fucking hightail it out.
Yeah, can you imagine that if that ended up being his first? That's like, dude, that's like the movie Kids. Remember where it's like,
oh yeah, sure,
virgin the whole time, and then she's getting.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to condone that behavior. That was teenage,
Yeah, shenanigans,
kind of antics,
yeah.
Shenanigans. Thank you. Yeah. And this is back in the 90s and everything, and of course we had no brain cells,
right?
And we were killing them constantly. But yeah,
I remember stopping by. I mean, I didn't frequent it obviously, but I think I stopped by there twice, and just with one of our friends. And yeah, I remember Mike, the host, walking around in a chainmail top, like he was walking around in chainmail. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then I remember the theme song to Flash Gordon, the Queen song always being blared, and everyone would do especially you, would do the Flash. Flash! Savior of the universe!
Yeah, but that was like the theme song for the week. I don't know how it got picked.
Yeah.
I really don't, and but hey, it worked. Everybody liked it.
Yep.
It was a jam, so it was cool. There's people who were sent to the hospital that week. There are people who broke limbs. Seriously, someone broke his leg.
Wow, man.
In the bathroom, on and on.
They broke their leg in the bathroom?
Yeah, he got into an argument with another friend, and he got jumped, and the leg got busted. So he was on crutches for months afterwards. The effects of this week-long party were just insane. I even remember I went home.
Yeah.
I was just burnt out. And this was like day 5 or something.
Right.
And next thing you know, I barely got any sleep, and our friend Big Dave
Yeah.
was knocking on my door, and he had stolen a car.
Yeah.
He didn't know whose car it was. He just found it had keys in it.
Yeah.
And he took it to come pick me up to bring me back.
Hey.
And even then I was a little irritated. I'm like, are you serious? You stole a car to bring me back to this fucking party.
Yeah.
He's like, we need you, man. Come on. You got to come back. We got pure grain. Fucking people's eyeballs are bleeding. It's the best fucking day of the year.
Yeah.
Like,
You're
whoa.
up, man.
And guess what?
What's that?
I went back.
Hey, of course you did.
So, you know, and
It was your duty.
as the week went down, or winded down rather,
Mm.
Mike got left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And he really had, I'm going to tell you, he had a good time, of course, being the ringmaster.
Of course.
But when the owner of the home got home,
Yeah, it's time to pay the piper.
he was in the fucking worst trouble of his life because
Dude.
there was a senior citizen who lived there,
Oh,
and
man.
someone used up all of her oxygen tanks.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know who was fucking huffing oxygen for
Right.
shits and giggles, but somebody did.
Yeah.
Those doors broken, windows broken. The dog got fucking peed on.
Oh, my God. There was a destroyed Teddy Ruxpin doll somehow.
The Teddy was hanging from the ceiling fan. I
Yeah.
mean, if you walked in there with a black light, there would be shit you couldn't unsee.
Yeah.
But he ended up having to go to court for the whole thing.
Wow, man.
And he even told me
Yeah.
that there was a broken Teddy Ruxpin on the police report that they wanted to be reimbursed for it. I said, oh, fuck.
Wow.
Don't bring me down with you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he got into big trouble for that. But,
Dude.
again, here we are,
Yeah.
all these years later, talking about this
Right.
fucking party. And, I mean, there was more.
Dude.
We could go, but, you know, there's time constraints in a podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring it up again in the future. But for now, that is the,
Yeah.
you know, the nut, the core of everything.
He wasn't
And,
the teacher's pet much longer after that, huh?
No, he was completely fucked. Like
Yeah.
I said, he had to go to court and everything else. And
Yeah.
she was not happy, nor would, I mean, imagine if that happened to you
Holy
or me.
shit.
How fucking mad would you be that
Yeah.
your house was used
Yeah.
as a fucking, you know, whorehouse, fucking drinking den, drug
Right,
den
Right.
for a bunch of teenage kids for an entire week while you're off enjoying your vacation, you know?
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me about that Mike would do that, though. If, you know, people knew him, he was just kind of I don't know. He had a habit of just kind of like causing. He's an instigator, kind of, you know. He liked to.
Oh, definitely.
But,
he was always up to something. But again, this is years ago. He is a
Right.
changed man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're all grown up.
Seems to be like the theme of this episode that, you know, we get wiser with age. We're just
Yeah.
talking about the friends we missed, who we could talk to now, and how everything would be different. So don't blame me. Don't
Right.
make me feel shitty about it. But I did want to share this story with all of you. And
Yeah, man.
but that fills our quota for Tales of Debauchery.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we return, Nate's Notes. Looking to experience ultimate relaxation and relief of chronic pain? You need to try the healing power of CBD with hemp bombs. Visit hempbombs.com for a wide range of pure, premium CBD products. From oils, capsules, gummies, pain-frees, and more, Hemp Bombs has all you need in store. Better sleep has proven to boost your immune system. And if you or a loved one live with discomfort, CBD is a natural organic remedy that works. Start living your best life today with Hemp Bombs. Fans of the show can save 20% off their entire order by using the code SELLINGOUT at checkout. Once again, that's code SELLINGOUT for 20% off at hempbombs.com. Dave from the Selling Out Show here to tell you about Spunk Lube. Spunk Lube is a multi-award-winning lubricant used by professionals in the adult film industry. Spunk is available in hybrid, pure silicone, natural, and pink. Spunk is made with the highest quality ingredients and is non-staining, hypoallergenic, and cleans with ease. Enhance your love life with Spunk. Right now, Spunk Lube is buy 3, get 1 free. There's no excuse not to give it a try. Spunk Lube, a high-end product for an affordable price. Visit spunklube.com today and you can thank me later.
Dust off your LPs. It's time for Nate's Notes.
I turned 40 this year, which means I was born in 1979. I was a child of the 1980s and a teenager in the 90s. We all have a fondness for our respective formative years and for the fashion and entertainment provided during those times, embarrassing as it may seem in the following decades. I recall seeing pictures and watching movies from the 60s and 70s as a kid and ribbing my folks for the styles and lingo of their generation. I couldn't imagine why someone would wear bell-bottoms or rock an afro when we were so cool we feathered our mullets and wore denim jackets. My mother would often tell us that fashion is cyclical, and before we knew it, we would be rocking all the stuff we were currently mocking. "No way," said precocious little me in my tiny basketball shorts and Frankie Says Relax shirt. My brother and I thought we were so cool, trying to mimic the moves we would see on breakdancing shows. I would put on a clip-on earring that hung down almost to my shoulder, and I cut the sleeves off like a camouflage army jacket that went well with my fingerless black bike gloves. I was cool in that getup, complete with my spiked hair and rat tail. Way cooler than those hippies and disco freaks from the previous decade. But that's the thing. Before I knew it, the 90s had hit. The hairspray and 80s flair seemed passé once Nirvana made it more cool to just seem like you didn't give a fuck about fashion. Just wear flannel and jeans with holes in them. Let your hair go unwashed and greasy if you want. The fashion of the 80s was becoming cheesy and silly. Then I saw a video by the dance pseudo-rave happy band D-Light. The music was new, but it had elements of disco, and the video was a 60s psychedelic throwback. The sexy, slinky singer, Lady Miss Keir, wiggled around in an almost painted-on, skin-tight, colorful cat suit, and she was superimposed over this, kaleidoscopic background. It felt like an updated scene from the 1967 Peter Fonda film, The Trip. It had the same sort of visual feel as the In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida video by Iron Butterfly. Very groovy indeed. Which leads me to the next musical benchmark of the 1990s, the rave scene. The rave scene in techno, or electronica, a genre title that kind of makes me gag even more than the term grunge, was definitely futuristic in tone. Electronic beats, samples, and modern synth sounds went well with the laser lights and the decor inherent in most of the underground and eventually mainstream parties we'd attend as dance-happy teenagers. But the hedonistic attitude of just taking drugs, hooking up with people on similar drugs, sharing drugs, and just dancing until dawn, it had a bit of that 1970s Studio 54 disco feel. Even the afros were coming back. Our giant-legged Jinko pants weren't quite bell-bottoms, but they flared out by the time they got to your feet, so the spirit was there. Wouldn't you know it, my mother was right. There's nothing wrong with being inspired by your forebears, and shit, if a particular genre or a scene that has come and gone was so popular that it had a definite place in the public consciousness, then it only makes sense that it will return to rear its ugly head once again in the future. The way tastes change and the constant tendency for artists to innovate makes it only natural that there's a finite shelf life for any musical fad, especially in the field of pop music. And since musical artists tend to have a specific look or style that either inspires or is inspired by the current cultural zeitgeist, depending on the artist, it only makes sense that there will be a time when the whole package of said artist will make people cringe after a certain length of time. But what also seems more and more apparent as popular music as a concept gets older and older is that even that cringe factor eventually fades away, and passé morphs into retro. Old school can either be an insult or just a descriptive term, depending on the intent of the speaker. Kind of like the term Jew. Think about it. There are always retro bands breaking through that sound like anachronisms when surrounded by other pop singles filling the airwaves. I remember I was like 11 or 12 when the Black Crowes released their cover of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle. On a side note, it never fails to amaze me how many bands there are whose breakout hit is a cover of an existing song. But you know what? That's a topic for another Nate's Notes. The Black Crowes went on to release a ton of classic blues rock singles, which have all not only charted, but are all genuinely well-written songs. And I guess enough time had passed for frilly paisley shirts and actual bell-bottoms to finally be cool again. Yeah, the 90s marked the end of the 1970s unhipness sentence. That seems to be the formula. The previous decade is uncool, but the one before it is okay to be influenced by or to show respect to. That's why during that era of grunge and electronica, the 1980s seemed so grossly loud and excessively neon-colored. The mullet suddenly looked so trashy. The virtuosic guitar soloing of someone like Yngwie Malmsteen was basically being scoffed at by kids who could kinda string together 3 or 4 bar chords and start their own Nirvana wannabe alternative band. Any of the synth-driven electro or hip-hop of the 1980s that got any play at all was only being sampled ironically to throw in like DJ sets and make people giggle while they danced the acid or ecstasy through their systems. It was only after the turn of the century that you saw bands that were genuinely inspired by and showing respect to the sweet melodies of bands like Tears for Fears and Depeche Mode. Bands like Duran Duran and New Order started drawing huge crowds again on tour. Even bands like Wasp and Stryper, Cinderella and Vixen got back on the road. The Whitesnake song, Here I Go Again, seems to be everywhere. And my stepson Joey loves it and thinks of it as this classic rock song that it probably is. I just have a hard time not smirking a little when I hear it. Some things I'll always find a little corny. There have even been bands that bite the style of 80s acts, not just audibly, but visually, in a fashion sense. Just as the Black Crowes brought the whole feel of a 70s rock band to the era of November Rain excess and CNC Music Factory pop. A few bands like The Darkness and Steel Panther were thoroughly embracing leopard print outfits, hairspray, and silk scarves as they shamelessly belted out their updated glam metal, complete with frilly guitar solos. Speaking of guitar solos, I will say that the new generation's appreciation for that era of arpeggios and finger tapping has done a world of good for the genre of technical death metal. It's right there in the name. This stuff is seriously complex and meticulously written. No reason to feel silly about being a guitar nerd. The competition is fierce nowadays, and I would put up the guitarist of any number of tech death bands, from Archspire to the Zenith Passage, against Yngwie Malmsteen or Joe Satriani any day. But back to the subject at hand. One area of 80s music that has inspired a lot of bands as well this millennium is in the area that spans post-punk to synth pop or even goth. You can hear evidence of this in bands like The Killers, and the icy sound of 80s synths found their way into countless bands like Crystal Castles or even Canadian nerd Starchild and potential Mrs. Elon Musk, Grimes. There was even that period in the early 2000s when it seemed like everyone wanted to be Joy Division, or at least they aped Ian Curtis's unique vocal style, the most popular of which being Interpol. I'm not particularly thrilled about the prospect of more bands like Rat or Quiet Riot, but if you're going to bring back the sound of The Cure or Killing Joke or even Depeche Mode, I say bring it on. There are some parts of the 80s that I personally never fell out of love with, and it's good to hear a band like this week's suggested listening, Drab Majesty, do it so well. They take elements of bands like Slowdive and the Chameleons, but add a layer of those icy synths and weave in a persona that references UFO cults like the Unarians and the Heaven's Gate people. Drab Majesty is a band that conjures up not just nostalgia for the 80s, but a really inhuman, almost alien image. Their style fits right into my tastes. So, as much as I complain about the nostalgia industry and what low-hanging fruit it can be to rehash things from the past that are already proven successful, there are definitely some aspects of the past that I don't mind seeing further explored. So, that was my long-winded little ode to not just the 80s, but to the fact that things have their cycle. They're cool, they're cheesy, and how did we ever like them? And then they're retro and cool again. So it's like there's just that pattern. But I'm happy that we're seeing a lot of these post-punk and kind of synth-poppy sort of bands coming back. Because, I don't know, Dave, how did you feel about the Drab Majesty song? Did you dig it at all?
I did dig it.
All right.
And I've recently...
I got one, finally.
You did. I didn't really listen to the lyrics fully.
Yeah.
But just the tone and the vibe from the song I enjoyed, because I've recently been wondering, I'm like, how come there's not a band out there, or not that I've heard, that just summons up the 80s as the 80s?
Right.
Doesn't try to incorporate it in like a new style, like you were kind of alluding to, or just little elements of it, but really just brings it all to the table. And I heard a lot of that here. I mean, it could have been the heavy reverb going on in the guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
But it actually reminded me a little bit, not completely, but Tin Machine.
Okay.
So I heard a little bit of those elements going on, and I dug it. I thought it was a very good pick. You mentioned, did you like it, and got all excited when I said yes, because normally you're picking these tunes and they're not really, up my alley. But this one I definitely did enjoy.
All right, I'm glad, man, because I feel like this is an example of one of the style of a band that you and I would have shared appreciation for. Like, we were both Cure fans. We both dig a bunch of Depeche Mode stuff. We have diverging tastes, but there are a few things that we agree on, and those are some of them, So I figured this one would be somewhat up your alley. Anyway, I'm glad it is. For next week, we will check out a band that I briefly mentioned along with Zeal and Ardor a few episodes ago. Alceste is a band from France that create beautiful atmospheres, and this song, which is the title track from the Kodama album, is a perfect example of what they do. Again, it's called Kodama, Kodama, by the band Alceste, which is Alcest. But of course, I'll post a link to it on Facebook to make it easier to check it out. And we'll have a little chat about it next episode.
Well, what the fuck are you doing, man? What the fuck is this? Listen, I just told you I was digging the 80s vibes, and now you're going back to the whole European death metal scene?
No, I think this I'm not going to even bring up the fact that it comes from a black metal start, because it's so far removed from that. If I hadn't mentioned them during that segment, I don't think you'd even know that that's where their influences lie, because they've come so far. I'll get into that next week.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it'll at least be more up your alley than a lot of the stuff that I've picked so far.
Okay, I'll give you that, because even the Zeal and Ardor stuff to me wasn't traditional.
Yeah.
When you said it was black metal or something, like I mean, I get it, but I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not being a fan of the genre, like, because there's other things in play there.
Right.
So, you know, I'm sure that's the case here as well, because you're not just giving us, like, stereotypical,
not
this
at
is
all.
Fucking scream core metal,
No.
whatever label you want to throw on it. There's always going to be a little twist in there.
Yeah.
A little
and
zest.
Alcest actually doesn't have any shouting, or it's all singing. It's you'll hear it, but it's a lot more easy to listen to than even Zeal and Ardor.
Hey, listen, if I don't like it, the following Nate's notes, you got to do some Michael McDonald for me.
All right,
Gotta hit me with some. There you go, or hit me with some yacht rock or something. In those kind of ways, you know.
Yeah, man.
But hey, you know what though? We are nearing the end of the show, and before we do go, I did want to mention a couple quick things before I forget. One is, I really want to thank one of our listeners, Jack the Hungry Guy, for always being there when we need him, giving us feedback, input, everything else like that. And, you know, just want to say thank you to Jack. We appreciate it. Even though we knew him back in high school, and he kind of freaks me out now because, you know me, I don't like the Facebook. I'm not down with the Facebook, but I hopped on the other day to check out some of the selling out stuff that you post, and I saw him on there, and he looks like Dustin Pedroia to me now.
Ah, I see that.
You do? Maybe he's in front of a brick wall or something. Wow. Maybe that is like shades of Fenway Park going on there. I don't know, Jack.
Yeah.
But you're looking svelte, baby. Looking good. And I also want to say another listener of the show and a guy who produces a wonderful podcast of his own, the Professor Frenzy Show. His name is Jerry Green, and he's wanted to hear your band. He asked about it on the Twitter. And I was like, well, maybe if we poke and prod Nate, he'll post something.
I know.
And I've seen some clips on your personal Facebook page, and there's some good jams, one of which you're shirtless, so you must have been really hot. And I was concerned for you because it's summer, so I'm thinking all the mosquitoes must be trying to bite your nips.
Yeah.
So put a fucking shirt on, you sweaty animal. But still.
That was a hot day.
Yeah. I think it was the hottest day of the year in Massachusetts, so I can't blame you. And when we were kids, you used to play naked, so at least you had pants on. But post some of those. Post some of those videos on the Selling Out page, will you? Or
right. I'll find some.
Yeah, I was gonna say Facebook,
less
Twitter, whatever.
Embarrassing for me. I'm humble. I don't like to, you know. To me, I'm like, I'll find some videos that are the least embarrassing, rather than dude, I'll find some cool videos.
Yeah, I understand. You right,
low
exactly.
Self-esteem.
You're not trying to promote yourself over the top here, but you should.
But sure.
There's some good music there, buddy. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good cover tunes.
Dude, we actually had a really, really good show. I won't get into it, but we had a great show today. It was one of the best ones we've had. So, I don't know, maybe somebody made a video of it today or took some recordings of it. And if so, I'll post those.
You won't get into it, but you just got into it.
I did get into it a
See,
bit.
that's fucking promotion right there, baby. I like it. Just like I like all the listeners out there. You know what? I don't like you. I fucking love you. All right? Virtual hugs for all of you. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Until next time, I am Dave, that is Nate, and this has been Selling Out.
Peace.
Infirmary Media.
I do have a hamster, and it is a fucking pain in my ass, so that was not a lie.
Yeah, man. Just don't Richard Gere the motherfucker.
Richard, what am I gonna fucking
put it up
treat it like a hooker? And
put it up
fucking...
your butthole.
I thought you meant like treat the hamster like fucking
Pretty
Julia
Woman.
Roberts. Yeah. Romance it and shit and be like
Pretty hamster.
I never kiss on the lips. You don't? You will now. So anyway.
Yeah.